There are slashers of all kinds that exist throughout cinema, and every single one of them was beaten or outsmarted by an iconic final girl or survivors in their own domain. But what would happen if they were put in an arena with each other? From ones that show the monster in humans to supernatural beings that haunt your dreams, there are a variety of slashers to put up against each other, but I only chose a random few. For this spooky season, I've decided to see who would make it out on top in this slasher tournament. Now, there obviously have to be rules, not only to help me out with these battles, but to also make it as even of a playing field as possible. These are the random slashers I chose for this spooky battle and their seed picks. Their rankings are chosen by the things that they do and their abilities from their first film only. The bracket is randomized, so I had no say in who went against who. I did my best to choose a variety of slashers, but most within their first film are human, which makes sense because that's most slashers. The first verses will definitely be Sweets for the Sweets, a battle that brings the boogeyman out of the shadows and a man who has a love for hooks and honey. It's Michael Myers versus Candyman. Candyman's abilities are way above Michael Myers' abilities when stacked next to each other. He, once called to our realm through a chant of his name 5 times, can travel wherever he wants to be. He can hypnotize another person, he can levitate, control bees, and is immortal. However, let's not get too discouraged now. Michael Myers, for being human, still has great abilities. He has super strength, has darkness as an ally, and a nice amount of durability. He was able to take 6 shots from a revolver and still be able to disappear into the night. But honestly, his opponent not even being from this realm causes Michael Myers to take a huge blow on the abilities. His opponent's abilities are too OP to be ignored. Now, when it comes to the intelligence factor, I believe that Michael Myers reigns supreme because even though Candyman can conjure up great plans and play his hand to force situations to capture him what he truly wants, Michael Myers doesn't really get credit for his intelligence. For example, instead of Michael Myers going straight for Lori, he decided to stalk her every moment and wait until she was most vulnerable to strike, knocking off her friends one by one with tricks and unexpected attacks so that she would have no help to run to. Because I'm only going based off the first one, this could be a stretch, but it said that he was taught how to drive, and to be able to have the intelligence to gain a relationship with one of the staff to get taught how to drive shows more intelligence from Michael Myers, because that means he planned an entire escape. That shows his patience to strike until he has enough information to do so. Intelligence goes to Michael Myers. The final category is strength, and though Michael Myers can break a glass window with his bare hands and has the ability to pin a whole human to the wall with a kitchen knife, he is not strong enough to take on the strength of his opponent. When I said let's not get too discouraged, I was talking to myself because I love Halloween, but Candyman takes this one. This matchup is one that is very uncommon. Ben Willis, the fisherman from I Know What You Did last summer, isn't going to be as easy a feat as you think up against the Collector, who I describe as a true predator hunting prey. When it comes to abilities, I give that to the Collector. He is an expert in hand-to-hand combat with knowledge in defense and setting traps, which leads me to intelligence. The Collector takes that as well, with a large part of his knowledge being in traps and his whole ideal being to trap his victims. Yes, Ben Willis does play the psychological game with his victims, like putting bodies in trunks and then all of a sudden they're gone when they come back, but playing the psychological game with the Collector is like trying to beat the person who made the game in the first place. Then we have strength. I give that to Ben Willis. He can literally drag and pull full-grown adults with hooks and survive a hit and run and being tossed in the water afterwards. That takes a lot of strength. And though the Collector's hand-to-hand combat is a huge asset, that doesn't necessarily make him the strongest of the two, especially since the Collector did get overpowered at one point in his film when it came to hand-to-hand combat. Unfortunately, Ben Willis probably wouldn't be able to touch the Collector because of all his traps, which is smart on the Collector because he most likely knows he can't beat everyone in hand-to-hand combat, so avoiding it completely is what he would do. So the Collector takes this round. This matchup may seem like an easy choice, but trust me when I say it's not. Starting with abilities. Pamela Voorhees' ability to set traps and use her environment to the best of its ability definitely gives her a leg up in the abilities category. The Miner and Pamela Voorhees both leave their victims for all to see, or pieces of them for that matter, playing the psychological game. But I'm gonna have to give abilities to Pamela Voorhees because of how thought out her actions are and the traps she sets to catch her victims. Because of her intelligence with traps, I give intelligence to Pamela Voorhees as well. She uses the fact that she's an older woman to her advantage, and that allows every victim to assume that they are safe or that she's frail. And because of that fact, they get comfortable, and that's when she strikes. But what happens if her opponent catches on sooner than she expects? That's where the Miner takes strength. He slings around a pickaxe and a mine with heavy equipment on. Also, in the uncut version of My Bloody Valentine 1981, the Miner picks a girl up by her head and sticks it through a pipe. So yeah, I believe the Miner takes strength. So now I know you're asking, well, who takes the W? And I'll give it to the Miner. Most of Pamela Voorhees' traps are used to catch victims off guard so she can go in for the kill, but they aren't set up to kill them, which means she would go in for hand-to-hand combat. But when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, that's definitely not her strong suit. Even though she puts up a fight to the best of her ability and can get hit in the head and get back up, I believe that the Miner would take it. His power and durability are too much in this battle. The Miner literally cuts off his own arm with no struggle and runs back into the mine seemingly unfazed. So I believe Pamela Voorhees would set a trap to catch him off guard to go hand to hand, but his durability and strength would be too much. The Miner, aka Axel, takes this one. Billy versus Norman Bates. Both of these characters are very mysterious yet strategic in their own right. They both have mishaps in their respective films. Billy failed to catch on that the police tracked his phone call, now giving heads up to the police that he's inside the house, and that can contribute to a lack of intelligence regardless of the reasoning. Norman Bates also failed to outsmart the police and couldn't think of a cover story to evade them. He was also overpowered when he came in a knife swinging into the basement as his mother to get another kill. However, I will say Billy plays mind games to mess with the heads of the victims. He also manages to slice the throat of an unsuspecting cop, showing his intelligence to be on a higher scale than Norman Bates. Intelligence goes to Billy. Billy also takes strength and abilities. He was able to set a trap to capture and pull a fully grown woman into the attic by a hook. He also manages to evade the police in the end overall. So I believe that Billy would be able to outsmart and overpower Norman Bates if it came down to it. This very close battle goes to Billy of Black Christmas, 1974. The Strangers are a very strange group of slashers, so maybe their defense against Freddy will be that they don't have any nightmares that haunt them. But in all seriousness, let's start off with the first category, abilities. Obviously, Freddy Krueger takes the W on abilities. His abilities include regeneration, controlling people's dreams, teleportation, and that's only a tiny fraction of his abilities. Unfortunately, the Strangers only being human and having an opponent in Freddy Krueger leads them to have a huge disadvantage in the ability section. Their ability to be stealthy won't save them. In intelligence, I'll give that to the Strangers. Their way of manipulating and playing mental games with who they're hunting is what increases their intelligence by a lot over Freddy. They even set it up where one of their victims killed their own friend, and I don't even think that was part of the plan originally, so they think on the fly. And I know, Freddy's power is basically an entire psychological game in itself. However, when Freddy was pulled from the dream state in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, all of his power to manipulate his victim went out the window as he fell for every trap and eventually was set on fire. So in my opinion, Freddy's intelligence weighs heavily on his power. Now finally, strength in this one is a no-brainer. It's Freddy. Even though Freddy is very weak in reality outside of the dream state and the Strangers have a nice amount of intelligence, I honestly feel like the Strangers would be able to figure out that they're in some type of mind trick in the dream state, but I don't think that they would be strong enough to last through the dream state of Freddy to even make it back to reality. We don't even see them go straight up hand to hand with the victims in the first The Strangers, so they could just be really good at catching people off guard, but awful at defending themselves, and sneaking through the shadows won't get you much when the whole nightmare is controlled by Freddy. They could stab all they want, but he would just heal or regenerate before taking the final blow to all three Strangers. This one goes to Freddy Krueger. Chucky has a better chance of beating Candyman than you would think. This one is an even match as well, with both being OP in the abilities, intelligence, and strength. So I have to nitpick when it comes to their films, and I have to say that Candyman may be a powerful being, but the way he is defeated in his film is pretty simple. He gets set on fire. So one detail gave Chucky that edge that he needed. I believe Chucky would figure out how to burn him instead of trying to go blow for blow. And I honestly thought that Candyman would make it to the end, but the winner is Chucky. I honestly believe I don't have to take that much time on this one. The Collector takes abilities and intelligence hands down. The Miner does have strength. However, like I said before, the Collector doesn't even give his victims a chance to do hand-to-hand combat with all the traps he creates, and not to mention he makes those traps in an environment that isn't even his. The Miner, aka Axel, will fall straight into the Collector's trap. This win goes to the Collector. This matchup is one that seems like it would go straight to Leatherface, but hold on now. Let's see what Billy's got. They're both human, so it puts them on an even playing field. Leatherface is really athletic. Name one person you know who can run full sprint with a chainsaw in hand. Well, actually, it's good that you can't. I hope that you can. Along with that, Leatherface has a large amount of durability, so strength goes to Leatherface. Billy once again takes abilities and intelligence with the way that he sneaks around in the shadows and set traps. However, Leatherface cut his own leg with a chainsaw and was still able to get back in the ring. So though I believe Billy has great intelligence and better abilities with being able to set traps, I believe Leatherface would withstand those traps and catch Billy with the chainsaw. So this one goes to Leatherface. This battle is the battle of all battles right here. But the only difference is that we're talking about Jason from Friday the 13th, Part 2. Because that was the first game that Jason Voorhees had on his own, and that may put him at a disadvantage. Now, like I said, this is purely opinion-based, so it's cool if the final decision does not please you. This is just something fun for the spooky season. When it comes to abilities, intelligence, and especially strength, Freddy takes all three categories. Jason is very resourceful and has some speed on him, but Freddy being a supernatural being once again pushes him forward in abilities. Freddy would definitely be in the head of Jason from Friday the 13th Part 2. Jason fell for the trick of one of his victims playing as his mother, so I definitely believe that Freddy would be smart enough to play mind games with him. But honestly, for me, it's not even about Freddy playing mind games, it's if his opponent can see through when Freddy does. And I don't believe that Jason Voorhees, at least from Friday the 13th Part 2, would see through that in time enough to counterattack. Freddy also takes strength because even though Jason took a blade through the shoulder and super jumped through a window, I don't believe Jason from part 2 can survive being fully decapitated by Freddy and dying within his nightmare. So I believe that this win goes to Freddy Krueger. I bet some will go as far as to say that this is a no-brainer and that the Collector would win, but you must remember that Chucky is a supernatural being. The Collector's abilities like hand-to-hand combat and setting traps is useful against a human, but with Chucky it's different. He would have to catch Chucky, and we also must remember that Chucky also has the strength of a grown man in a doll size, and his durability is high. So when it comes to ability and strength, I give it to Chucky. The Collector may take the win for intelligence, but I believe that Chucky has enough strength and abilities to even out where his intelligence would be lacking. This win goes to Chucky. Leatherface may have the agility, speed, and strength to go up against Freddy, but he won't be able to beat the mind games that Freddy will play on him. What I mean by this is if you watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface seems to be overwhelmed about more people coming to the house, and on top of that, he seems to be manipulated by the leader of the house. So though I feel like Leatherface can take a lot physically, I believe that Freddy will only have to trap him mentally to go in for the kill. So this one goes to Freddy. Here we are, the final battle. Look at us. Now, I wouldn't say I'm surprised considering that these two slashers are supernatural beings with high durability and strength. Now, who takes abilities? Well, that would be Freddy. His abilities to wreak havoc in the dream state is just too powerful of an ability. Like, you have to go to sleep. Even Chucky sleeps. Chucky takes intelligence because he has to plan and think about his next move more than Freddy does. Because, well, he's a doll, and he's in reality. So everything has to line up and make sense, whereas Freddy can kill people in their dreams and can make it look like they just died from a night terror if he so pleased. So honestly, circumstance is what gives Chucky the win for intelligence. Last but not least, we have strength. Now you must remember that we are only going by the first films. At the end of A Nightmare on Elm Street, they were able to put Freddy down for a moment, but he wasn't out. But it took a lot to take Chucky out, like setting him on fire and shooting him, but he still kept coming, burnt and all. So the winner is Freddy Krueger. His abilities, even just going by the first film, are unmatched. He has so much power in the dream realm and doesn't have the restraints of reality holding him back. You can say all they have to do is find a way to get him into the real world, but I honestly don't think any of these slashers would be able to come to that conclusion fast enough or make it to the real world in time to be able to stop him. Freddy's powers are just too much to handle. This was such a fun video to make, and I just feel like giving an even bigger W to final girls and survivors of these slashers, because to be able to beat these slashers in their own domain, it's just iconic in itself. Who did you think will win in the Battle of Slashers? Let me know what you think. Remember to keep it kind and sweet, and I hope you had a fun time. And thank y'all so much for watching. Happy spooky season.